Rabbi, speaking to you from Efrat, Israel. Guess what? Purim is coming. Starts Monday night. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Purim. We talk about a strange halacha, strange law about Purim. And the Shulchan Aruch teaches us, it's a direct quote from the Mishnah, it says, Hakorias ha-Megillah l'mafreya lo yotza. If somebody reads the Megillah backwards, he hasn't fulfilled the mitzvah of the Megillah. Well, let's just stop and think about what's the Megillah about. Of course, we all know Megillah is the story of Purim. It's the story of how Achashverosh threw a feast, invited everybody in the kingdom to come there. In fact, it was mandatory for everybody to come there. Got upset with his wife Vashti, killed her, went searching through the kingdom for a replacement for his queen, and found Esther, the niece of Mordechai. He didn't know apparently that Esther was Jewish at that point. Esther then became the queen, and under the rule of those days, even the queen couldn't just approach the king without his permission. Haman, wicked Haman, was the minister of the king and who hated the Jews. And he wanted to kill the Jews. And the king sealed an edict at the request of Haman to kill all the Jews on a certain day. The Megillah is the story about this and tells what happened and how Esther was able to be persuaded by Mordechai to go to the king and tell him about the plight, and the king then ended up hanging Haman and giving the Jews the ability to defend themselves, which they did successfully. That's the story of the Megillah. So the halacha says you don't read the Megillah backwards. If you read it backwards, you haven't fulfilled your obligation. Now, who in their right mind would think that anybody could read the Megillah backwards? I mean, that's a strange thing. You don't read the Megillah backwards. If you look at the little introduction blurb that I put on this page, it has, do not read the Megillah SDRAWKCAB, which is backwards, spelled backwards. We learn a message from this halacha about how we have to approach the Megillah and what the Megillah stands for, what Purim stands for. The heroine of the Purim story is Esther. And the question is asked, where do we find a reference to Esther in the Torah? And the answer is we find it in a sentence in Parshas Vayelech in Deuteronomy, Devorim, where God says, he's talking about how the people will turn away from God, the Jewish people will turn away from God. God says, Vanochi haster Esther panai bayomahu, I will I will hide my face on that day. We have gone through many, many periods in history, including right now, where at times it seems that God is hiding his face from us. There's a panic going on in the world. Many people are getting sick with the COVID-19 virus, the coronavirus. People are panicking. We've had many, many difficult times in history, the history of the Jews and the history of the world, where people are panicking. And God is saying, there will be a time I will hide my face from you. But the story of Purim, as set forth in Megillah, teaches us something very interesting. First of all, the Megillah, the story of the Megillah does not contain the name of God. When we talk about that was something else. The Davidovich Rabbi, the Kedushas Levi, says that teaches us something very important about miracles. When we were at the Red Sea and the sea split, and the Jews were able to walk across to safety and the Egyptians perished, that's a revealed miracle. Getting us out of Egypt was a revealed miracle. But if you look at the story of the Megillah, the story of Purim, it doesn't look like a revealed miracle at all. God's name is not there. It's not said anywhere in the Megillah that God is doing anything. It all seems to be a natural course of events. The natural course of events ends up leading to a miraculous recovery. So we see the miracle at the end, not through the apparent God's hand, but through what we are doing ourselves. Teaches us that we must look for the secret of God's presence in everything that happens. We see things happening and we think that we're doing it. And we have to realize that we're not doing it. And we also have to realize that even though it appears that God is hiding his face from us and is hiding from us, God is not. God is present in every moment of our life. Purim is referred to as the greatest of the holidays. And it is said that in the end of days, all of the holidays will be abolished except Purim. And Purim is a holiday that gives great light to the Jewish people and to the world, a light of hope, a light of deliverance. This particular week's Parsha, Tetzaveh, starts by talking about the light of the menorah. The menorah gave light to the Jewish people from the inside of the Holy Temple, inside of the Mishkan. The light shined to the outside. The job of the Jew is to provide light, to be a light to the world. Purim is this light. Every holiday has an aspect of light of the holiday that extends beyond the days of the holiday. We have Purim is said to be Kippurim, like Yom Kippurim. Yom Kippur, of course, is the most sacred, serious day of the Jewish year. It's a day when we're beseeching God, we're fasting all day, and we ask God for forgiveness. But it's said that Purim is a Yom Kippurim. It's like Purim. It's like Yom Kippur, but how is it like Yom Kippur? Because on Purim, it is said that whatever we want, God will give us. It is said that on Rosh Hashanah, God lets us write what we want to happen in the coming years, whether we want to be listed in the book of righteous, of ordinary people, or of wicked people. But that decision is sealed on Yom Kippur. But the Davidovich Rebbe says, and the other sages say, that not only is it not only completely sealed there, but you can undo it up until Purim, so that the Gezerah, the decree, is actually finally sealed on Yom Kippur. And the Tivot Shalom talks about how Purim is something we have to remember every single day of our lives. We have to remember that no matter what kind of darkness we find ourselves in, right now we have a world that is panicking, but we have to have hope. We have to have hope and trust in God. Purim is called the holiday of Emunah, the holiday of Bitachon, the holiday of trust and belief in God, because we know that God is not really hiding our face from us. It just looks like it. And if we simply open our eyes, we will see the light of God, the light of Purim, and the light that we have to take with us throughout the year. Thank you for listening on behalf of the webyeshiva.org. I wish everybody a Purim Sameach, a happy, joyous Purim.